We're going to call this hearing to order. For roll call, Supervisors Fisher, Schifani, Cassiola, Barney are in attendance, in addition to Dan Dazaroth, our Township Engineer, our Solicitor Gretchen Moore, and our Township Manager Don Januso, and our Assistant Township Manager Jack King. Would you do a swearing in if anybody wants to? Okay, thank you. Gretchen, would you just bring everybody up to date, just briefly on why we came to make these amendments?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're here tonight for the duly advertised proposed ordinance number 5 of 2005. That ordinance made some substantive changes to an ordinance that was passed by this board in November of last year. Those changes are attached to the ordinance itself. There's a track changes version of the last ordinance compared to this ordinance. There's also a track changes version of this ordinance compared to the ordinance prior to that. So there's out of an abundance of caution and giving everyone the most clarity they could possibly have to look at the changes in the ordinances over the years. Both of those are available, and they are both attached to proposed ordinance 5 of 2025. I can say for the record, substantively, the main differences are that there was a waiver provision in the previous ordinance related to oil and gas development. So where there's drilling and well pads, there's a waiver process where if all of the neighbors within the 2,500-foot setback agree to waive that setback, then a proposed pad could go in that location. That waiver provision did not appear in a separate section of the ordinance which related specifically to oil and gas facilities. So oil and gas facilities are separately laid out. These are things like compressor stations, processing plants, and other maybe smaller facilities. So we wanted to clearly address that and make sure the waiver provisions would also apply to those what we're calling oil and gas facilities. We also wanted to be clear that as it relates to the larger facilities, such as processing plants and compressor stations, that those would only be allowed in the I-2 heavy industrial. And to that end, there was no change at all because they were previously only allowed in the I-2 heavy industrial. So we just brought that into this ordinance so that it was clear. And then for all other facilities, they are allowed subject to the setbacks and with a waiver provision now in that section. The other substantive change is the removal of geophysical exploration, which is like your seismic testing. That particular portion of the ordinance, we realized after the fact, the township already addressed it in a non-zoning way. So seismic testing could be addressed two different ways. You could do it through a zoning ordinance. You could do it through a non-zoning ordinance. They already had something on the books in a non-zoning ordinance way. So the decision was, well, let's remove it from this one so that we're not duplicating efforts and it's not confusing, so that we have both a zoning and non-zoning way to address it, and just leave it as it originally was from a non-zoning perspective. So you will see that the geophysical exploration portions of this ordinance have been removed. And then there's just some general, I'd say, cleanups, adding some clarity, all of which is clearly outlined in the track changes version. Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you. As you can see why I had no intention of trying to explain that. So thank you for that. First of all, do any board members have any comments on it or need any clarification on any of those items? How about anybody in the residents want to make any comments? Excuse me. I know nobody raised their hand to be sworn in, but you're welcome to make comments, though, if you like, or ask questions. All right. And there being no other testimony or evidence, I'll declare this hearing closed.